Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Haribo 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 Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakachaja Stutarisata Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Nitalila Pravishtam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakachaja Stutarisata Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Ananta Kodi Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai.
Jai.
Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Go Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai.
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai.
Jai.
Navadip Dham Ki Jai.
Jai.
Mayapur Dham Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jagannath Puri Nila Chala Dham Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Radha Sarat Bihari Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ki Jai.
Jai.
Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki.
Jai.
Yamuna Mai Ganga Mai Ki.
Jai.
Ramaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki.
Jai.
Harinam Sankirtan Ki.
Jai.
Sankirtan Jagna Ki.
Jai.
O Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Jai Shri.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So this morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, starting with chapter 13, starting with text number 46, and also 47 and 48. So I'll read the sloka 3 times and then you can all try. Tavat sarve vatsapala pasyato jasya tat shanat Vyadrishanta Ganasyama Pita Kosheya Vatsasa Tavat Sarve Vatsapala Pasatto Jasya Tat Shanat Yadrishanta Ganasyama Pita Kosheya Vatsasa Tavat Sarve Vasapala Pasyato Jasya Tat Shanat Vyadrishanta gana shama pita kosheya vatsasa. Someone else?
Tavat sarve vatsapala yato yasya tat kushanat yadrashyanta ganashama pita kosheya va saha.
Anyone else?
Tavat sarve vatsapalaha pasyato jasya tatkshanat vyadrisyanta ghanasyamaha pitakausabhavasasaha. Hare Krishna.
Ladies?
Tavat sarve vatsapala pasyato jasya tatsaknat yadrishyanta ghanashyama pita kauseya vasasa.
Tavat sarve vatsapala pashyato jasya takshanat vyadrashyanta ghanashyama pita kausheya vasasa.
Word for word. Tavat.
Oh, I'm not done yet.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Suman Mataji.
Yes, I want to see that. I don't see that.
Sorry.
So thank you, Renuka Mataji. Tavat sarve vatsa palaha pashyato jasya tat kshanat prayadrishyantu ghana shyamaha pita kausheya vasaha. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Anyone else?
Tavat sarve vatsapalaha pasyato jasya tatskanat vyadrisyanta ghanashyama pita kauseya vasasaha.
Bob Prabhu, I think, wants to try.
Please.
Thank you. Yes. Tadvat sarve vatsa palaha pasyato jasya tatsanat vyadra syanta gana syamaha pita kushya vasasaha. Thank you, Prabhus. Thank you.
Haribol. So word for word, tavat, so long, sarave, all, vatsapala, both the calves and the boys tending them, pashyata, while he was watching, ajasya, of Lord Brahma, tat shanat, immediately, vyadrichyanta, were seen, gana shamaha, as having a complexion resembling bluish rain clouds, pita kalsheya, vatsasa, and dressed in yellow silk garments. Translation. Then while Lord Brahma looked on, all the calves and the boys tending them immediately appeared to have complexions the color of bluish rain clouds, and to be dressed in yellow silken garments. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. While Brahma was contemplating, all the calves and cowherd boys immediately transformed into Vishnu Murtis, having bluish complexions and wearing yellow garments. Brahma was contemplating his own power and the immense, unlimited power of Krishna. But before he could come to a conclusion, he saw this immediate transformation. So next verse, next two verses actually. Chaturbhuja Sankha Chakra Gada Rajiva Panaya Kiritina Kundalino Harino Vana Malina Shivat Sangada Dhoratna Kambu Kankana Panaya Nipurai Katakair Vata Kati Sutranguli. So I'll just do the word for word. Chatubhuja, having 4 arms. Shanka Chakra Gada Rajiva Panaya, holding conch shell, disc, club, and lotus flower in their hands. Kiritina, bearing helmets on their heads. Kundalina, wearing earrings. Harina, wearing pearl necklaces. Vanamalina, wearing garlands of forest flowers. Srivatsa, Angada, Doratna, Kambu, Kankana, Panaya, bearing the emblem of the goddess of fortune on their chest, armlets on their arms, the Kaustubha gem on their necks, which were marked with 3 lines like a conch shell, and bracelets on their hands. Nupurai, with ornaments on the feet. Katakai, with bangles on their ankles. Bataha, appeared beautiful. Kati, Sutra, Anguli, Yakai, with sacred belts around the waist and with rings on the fingers. Translation. All those personalities had 4 arms, holding conch shell, disc, mace, and lotus flower in their hands. They wore helmets on their heads, earrings on their ears, and garlands of forest flowers around their necks. On the upper portion of the right side of their chest was the emblem of the goddess of fortune. Furthermore, they wore armlets on their arms, the Kaustubha gem around their necks, which were marked with 3 lines like a conch shell, and bracelets on their wrist. With bangles on their ankles, ornaments on their feet, and sacred belts around their waist, they all appeared very beautiful. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. All the Vishnu forms had 4 arms with conch shell and other articles. But these characteristics are also possessed by those who have attained Sarupya Mukti in Vaikuntha, and who consequently have forms exactly like the form of the Lord. However, these Vishnu forms appearing before Lord Brahma also possess the mark of Srivatsa and the Kaustubha gem, which are special characteristics possessed only by the Supreme Lord Himself. This proves that all these boys and calves were in fact directly expansions of Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, not merely His associates of Vaikuntha. Vishnu Himself is included within Krishna. All the opulences of Vishnu are already present in Krishna. And consequently, for Krishna to demonstrate so many Vishnu forms was actually not very astonishing. The Srivatsa mark is described by the Vaishnav Toshani as being a curl of fine yellow hair on the upper portion of the right side of Lord Vishnu's chest. This mark is not for ordinary devotees. It is a special mark of Vishnu or Krishna. Om Agyanatimirandasa Jananjanan Salakaya Chakshuvimitamnena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve. Gaudavani Pacharni Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pascharcha Desitare. So this is a very interesting part of the Srimad Bhagavatam. First, I'll say something that we can remember as we begin the discussion is that Krishna is Lord Brahma's guru. First point to keep in mind. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye. That Brahma received this knowledge of Vedanta, the philosophy, the Vedas, from Lord Krishna directly. Because in the beginning, there was no one else but Lord Krishna. And when Brahma appeared, there was nothing else but, what he could see around him, especially the lotus stem, lotus flowers. So he went down and heard the sound tapa, did his austerities, and Krishna blessed him with transcendental knowledge. So Krishna is his guru, first thing that we have to remember. And Brahma is a very exalted personality, very exalted. So the fact that Brahma is being tested by Krishna, it is something which is normal procedure in our Krishna conscious process. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, one should be prepared to pass the test of the Guru. Very important. So remembering that Brahma, being so exalted, first person in the universe, directly from the Lord, there was no Krishna or Vishnu and then Lakshmi and then Brahma. It was the Lord, and then Brahma came from his lotus navel. So he's so exalted, but still, on several occasions, Brahma has become bewildered. I was just listening this morning, Srila Prabhupada is describing how Brahma was chasing his own daughter. If you read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll find that. And Prabhupada says she's very beautiful. And Brahma was chasing after her. And that was more or less in a previous manifestation of him. So he had to shed that particular body, which was somehow not perfect. But the point is that even though he's so exalted, he made mistakes, and Krishna had to correct him. So the spiritual master, in guiding the disciples, will make a test. And we can reflect on the life of Srila Prabhupada after meeting Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, and all the tests that Srila Prabhupada went through. As we heard last night when he was describing his first meeting with his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and Prabhupada said that his Guru Maharaj asked him from that first time, take this message in the English language, spread it. And Prabhupada reflected that, I have a family, I have so many things, I have my business, and how can I do this? And then Srila Prabhupada said last night, I should have done it immediately. Then he said, but Maya is there. So how many times have we hesitated due to the influence of the material energy? We might think simply because we're devotees, we've adopted this process, we've joined the movement. Some of us are initiated, some of us are initiated by Srila Prabhupada. Some of us have accumulated so much knowledge. So you may think, no, it's okay, I'm fine, no problem. But Maya has a way, under the direction of Krishna, of coming into the life of a devotee to test them. Everything that happens to a devotee means someone who's trying to serve Krishna. Everything that happens to a devotee is a test by the Lord. Test or blessing, and they're both the same. The test might be difficult, but it's also a blessing. The Lord is trying to lift us up. The Lord is trying to increase our devotion. When he takes away something from us, he's trying to increase our attachment to that, especially devotional. I don't mean material things. The Lord doesn't want us to increase our material attachments. So when he takes away something material, it's not so that we can hanker for that thing, okay? Oh, he took away my health. He took away my age. Now I'm an old man. Like Prabhupada he looked at his hand one time. He said, how has it become so old? So he observed his body. It's getting old. He said, I am an old man. No more beauty. Beauty is gone. Everything is gone. Health is gone. So Krishna's taken everything away. And we know from his prayer in Vrindavan, when he said, my family is gone, business is gone, friends are gone, everything is gone, but it's giving me a big laugh. I'm laughing because I'm recognizing that it's Krishna. So we might think we are exempt by virtue of our position in Krishna consciousness, all the way up to Guru, because Brahma he's the first Guru in the universe. So all the way up to Brahma, this can happen. But in Brahma's case, it is by the mercy of the Lord. The Lord because Brahma has such big duties to perform. Unbelievable. capacity for service and responsibility, just like some of us have responsibilities in Krishna consciousness. And it rises all the way to the platform of Guru. Guru in our movement, we try to follow the example set by Srila Prabhupada in trying to train his disciples. So the gurus in our movement, they're trying to set the best example, train their disciples. But even sometimes in our movement, we have seen that gurus have problems because this material energy is very powerful. So when we take up Krishna consciousness, it's declaring war on this material energy. Now it's a different kind of war. You can't fight Maya. How are you going to fight Maya? She's serving the Lord. We know Yoga Maya, Mahamaya, and we've discussed this many times. The same Maya. When we are in the illusion, when we're chasing after sense gratification, when we're lamenting, as Arjuna was in the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada says that is Mahamaya. But the moment we surrender to Krishna, give our hearts to Krishna, start doing everything for Krishna, being in samadhi, thinking of Krishna, hearing about Krishna, glorifying Krishna, then the Yoga Maya comes. Especially once a devotee transcends through these modes of nature. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatitaitam brahma bhuyai kalpate. When we rise above these modes of nature through devotional service, by the power of devotional service, then we can rise above the influence of the modes of material nature. But until that time, prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasaha ahankara vimud atma kartahamiti manyate, that we are bewildered. Even though we're devotees, that bewilderment comes into our life. Many times devotees become confused. They don't know what to do. They may inquire, if they're smart. If we are smart, when we become confused, we inquire from those more experienced devotees. We come and say, this is my situation, please help me, I'm trying to understand. Then that devotee out of compassion will guide you. This is what Rupa Goswami has recommended. Guyam akyati prichati, revealing one's mind in confidence and then listening confidentially. And by the association of devotees, we can overcome these difficulties. I remember a lecture given by His Holiness Hridayananda Maharaj, very famous lecture. It's called How the Modes Rule Our Day. So we all have to do that analysis ourselves. Am I being affected by the mode of passion, goodness, or ignorance? And goodness is also not, it's good. Goodness is good. It's a nice platform to work from, but don't become comfortable in that platform. Prabhupada says in that platform, one thinks, oh, I'm intelligent. Okay, we know as devotees, sometimes we have that effect. I am intelligent. I am qualified. That's all the effects of the mode of goodness and a little bit of passion. Passion makes us think that we're really qualified. We can do anything. You know, I can just... And then the mode of ignorance means unnecessarily too much sleep, overeating, oversleeping, so many things. So the spiritual master is very attentive with the devotees, very attentive to the needs of the devotee. Lord Krishna, being the guru of Brahma, is very attentive to Brahma because Brahma has big responsibilities. So he must be tested. So testing is part of normal life, just like in the military. Those people are tested. I've never been there. I mean, my brother was there in Vietnam, so I used to go to the military base to see him, and I could see all the things they were doing. Actually, it was quite attractive. Very powerful guys climbing up ropes and jumping and this and that, lifting and running with packs on the training. And the sergeant is screaming in their ears. You've seen this probably in some movie or something. The sergeant is just, they call the drill sergeant. And he's just screaming bloody murder, calling them bad names, making them do 100 push-ups and then 100 more. And then carrying this, going there. Why is he doing that? He tells them at the end, because when you get into battle, I want you to be ready so you don't get yourself killed. That's why he does it. But some soldiers can't make it. It's called basic training. And then some people fail. They fail because I can't take this anymore. I'm out. That happened in the Krishna consciousness movement. I can't say many devotees, but some devotees couldn't make it. They couldn't pass the test of the guru. Simple tests. Like one time Prabhupada in New York. He came in the room. They were all expecting a lecture. And Srila Prabhupada said something to this effect: the spiritual master should be worshipped as God or as good as God. I can't remember the exact wording. It's in Lilamrita. And he got up and walked out. And they're like, what? What did we just hear? Prabhupada said, if someone says he's God, he's a rascal. Kick on his face. But look what he just said. And they were so confused. They didn't know what did Prabhupada just say? It was a test. It was a challenge. And they had to, at that time, the senior most devotee was Kirtanananda. So they went to him and they were asking him, and he gave some clarity to the situation. Because the Guru is as good as God, because he represents the Lord, okay? He's representing the Lord. So the Lord is manifesting through the spiritual master. In that way, you get tested in different ways. Prabhupada used to test his disciples by sending them somewhere to preach. He sent Tamal Krishna Maharaj to China as a punishment, but it was a blessing. There was too much friction amongst the devotees, so he sent him, you go to China. Or he would tell someone, you go here, you go there. And then the devotees, they went to England in the beginning. You can read those pastimes, how much struggle they went through to try to spread Krishna consciousness there. So Prabhupada was constantly testing his disciples. I've had my own little tests, and I know that, Mother Sangita, different devotees, Prabhupada disciples, we all know the test that we've gone through, either physical test or mental test or test of our attachment. How much do you want to serve Krishna? So Lord Brahma, you can't even imagine how significant this test is. But at the same time, how special Lord Brahma is for Krishna to go through all this trouble to test his disciple. Remember, Brahma is his disciple. Krishna is his guru. So Krishna's doing what he's doing to Brahma to elevate Brahma, to make him a much better devotee. And Brahma, as it says in the verse, before he could come to a conclusion, he saw this immediate transformation. So he's trying to figure out what the heck is going on here. He's trying to figure it out. And it says that Brahma was contemplating his own power and the immense unlimited power. So he's looking at his power and Krishna's power. And that's why it's called Brahma Vimohana Leela. Because observing Krishna's power, thinking of his own power, he's like, back and forth. You couldn't square that. See, sometimes we run into that situation where we try to see our own power in comparison to someone else. And we generally try to be better than other persons, depending on our level of humility. We try to see the weakness in others so that we can be elevated just above them, if not way above them. So Brahma is trying to figure out, now he knows that his Lord is Krishna. He knows, but this little boy is different. He can't figure out. So for 1 year, Krishna manifests the boys and the calves. And here it's talking about the Vishnu Murti. These were actually Krishna. So it also explains that when the calves and the boys first went back home to their mothers, the mothers showed more love for them in this form of Krishna than they had for their own children. Why? Because it was Krishna. And the natural affection for Krishna is much greater than the affections that we have in this material world. But they didn't know. Brahma was not sure. So Prabhupada said he went away for a moment of his own time frame. So Brahma's time frame is different from ours. We live for 100 years. Brahma lives for 100 years. So Brahma's 100 years equates to 311 trillion years of ours. So you can think, I'm not a mathematician, don't ask me, but take one moment of 311 trillion years is like 1 year for us, a moment for Brahma. He played a prank. Let me check out this little boy. Let me check him out. So he took away the cows, took away the calves, put them inside the cave, and they were sleeping. And then Brahma came back because he didn't want to take too much of a risk dealing with this. So he came back in his time, a moment. Like sometimes we've been in our lives, especially when we were younger, we play pranks on each other and pranks with our parents and hide this and hide that, hide and go seek, all these little games we used to play. So Brahma's playing a little game. So in his mind, it's not a big deal. He comes back and he sees, wait a minute, I just put those boys in the calves over here and they're still here. What is this? And then he was just really, really bewildered. So then he tried to understand his own power compared to Krishna's power. Brahma, vimohana, like vimudha, vimohana, bewildered. But that was Krishna's arrangement. So I know sometimes devotees, myself included, we become bewildered. Now, it all depends on how focused we are on devotional service as to how much Krishna gets involved in that process. In the beginning, Krishna works through his energy to control our activities, although he's in everyone's heart. So that's another major aspect of what's being discussed here throughout this pastime. He's right there already in your heart, and he's ready to reciprocate. Sarvasya chaham ridishani visto matat smitir gyanam apohanam cha. Vedaischa savar aham eva veja vedantakrit veda vid eva chaham. He's right there. So close. What is our problem? For Brahma, Krishna's right there. But he's estimating his own power to Krishna's power. That's probably part of our problem as well. We look at our own skills, abilities, intelligence, and then we look at Krishna. But we have no intelligence without Krishna. Sarvasya chaham ridishani visto. He gives the intelligence, but we think it's us. I don't know how many times I have to tell myself this. I'm not trying to tell all of you. I'm telling me, Balabhadra, wake up. You don't have any intelligence. It's Krishna. I give the understanding. I give this. Krishna says it all throughout the Bhagavad Gita, but in that verse 15:15 specifically, remembrance, forgetfulness, I give you that. It comes from me. Why is it that we forget? How is it that Brahma forgot? So for a devotee, as I said from the beginning, it's a test. We're being tested. In the midst of this chaos of our own lives, forget about the chaos of the world. We get so hung up on the news and the politics. No, the chaos in our own lives. We get this chaos in our lives. It's just overtaking our intelligence, which Krishna's giving us. He's a super soul in the heart. He's trying to guide us. I remember the first time I heard this explanation from a senior devotee. The idea that when we say, my conscience is bothering me, it was very brilliant analyses that this devotee gave at a university lecture. He was trying to help the people understand about the super soul within and guiding us through the intelligence. He said, just like you say, my conscience is bothering me, meaning that I'm thinking of doing this thing, but my conscience is bothering me, telling me, don't do it. Don't do it. It's like, what is it? The Sutara Upanishad? I can't remember. Kata Upanishad. So it says that two birds sitting on the tree. This is actually in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Two birds sitting on the tree. That's analogous to our life in this material body, in this material world. One bird is representing the super soul. The other bird is the living entity. So the super soul has all knowledge. He knows what's good, what's bad, what fruit is sweet, what fruit is bitter. The other bird is the experiencing bird. And he's just tasting this sweet, not good. Tasting that sweet, maybe good. And then the other bird is saying, don't do that. That one is not good. That one is not good. So in our life, that happens. Don't do that. This is not good. Something is telling us not to do it. But guess what? Sometimes we're such rascals, we do it anyway. We just do it anyway. Against our own, here's another phrase, our own better judgment. What the heck is this better judgment other than Krishna? We think it's us. I have great discrimination. Like it says, what is it? Discrimination is the better part of valor. Discretion is the better part of valor. So all of these things are coming from Krishna. What makes us forget? Well, it could be on several levels, but I want to go to the level where Krishna is testing us because he loves us so much. He wants us to break free, and he helps us through the association of devotees to be able to recognize all these dynamics. You have to understand, Brahma had no one to turn to except Krishna. He's the biggest person in the universe. He's the first person in the universe. Everyone else came from him. Of course, Narada Muni became his disciple, and then Vyasadeva became the disciple of Narada Muni. But just imagine the position of Brahma. Such a responsibility. So he must be tested. Srila Prabhupada, look at his responsibility to save all of us. As I said last night, it would not be any us. No Zoom call in Philadelphia, right? Vinjavali? No Zoom call in California, no this, no that. No kirtan program, nothing. Had Prabhupada not tried against his own estimation of his situation, his age, his financial situation, no respect from God, brothers. That is so painful to think about what Prabhupada went through. At one point, Srila Prabhupada was trying to get a couple of sets of clothing so he could preach. They wouldn't even help him with that. Prabhupada wanted to increase the publication of the magazine. And the disciples of his godbrothers were so upset with Prabhupada. He's pushing too much. And then one godbrother, he was staying in one ashram, and the godbrother wrote one letter back because of the complaints of his disciples, telling Prabhupada, I think these boys are not respecting you nicely. I think it would be better for you to maybe go somewhere else. In other words, leave. And Prabhupada had to endure all of that. Why did Krishna put him through that? Why? Because his responsibility is so great. Comparatively speaking, we can even think about the life of Jesus Christ and how much he was tested. I forget how many days he had to go into the desert. Some of you might know, I don't remember now. He had to go into the desert, and the devil was tempting him, and he was suffering and suffering and suffering. Why? Because of the level of service he had to perform. Remember the example I gave of the military. They have to go into battle, so they must be tested. So devotee must be tested. Jayapataka Maharaj, my dear God brother and friend, he was giving class once, and he said, Krishna gives test, and then another test, and then another test, and then more tests. Then he said, then he gives a very big test. And then he said, and no more test. So I was thinking when Maharaj had all his problems with the strokes and what he's going through now, I said, my God, he almost he predicted his own situation. But Krishna tested him, and he told us many tests that they went through in Mayapur, him and Bhavananda, and how they would get sick, and Prabhupada would make them go out in the field and work with the bulls and the cows. He wouldn't give them a break because he needed them to do some big service. Spread Krishna consciousness on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. As Prabhupada was saying so affectionately last night, my Guru Maharaj will be pleased upon you. And then I believe in Los Angeles, maybe Sangeeta might know better than that. He said he'll be more pleased than me, my Guru Maharaj, because this is fulfilling the mission of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was fulfilling the mission of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And as Srila Prabhupada said last night, everybody wanted it. Meaning all the acharyas, the 6 Goswamis, everybody wanted this message to be carried around the world, especially Lord Chaitanya. Every town and village is what Lord Chaitanya wanted. So who's going to take up that work? So in the military, who's going to become the squad leader? The guy who passed the test, works the hardest, doesn't. When the sergeant is screaming at him, he doesn't scream back. It's like some of us, we get so caught up in this. If we get chastised, we just get mad and we complain. Why is he or she doing this to me? One godbrother of mine, he used to say, well, who else do you want him to do it to? You complain they're doing it to you, so you want the pain to go to someone else? Oh, look how bad you are. Why are they doing this to me? Who else do you want them to do it to? Don't you see it's a blessing? And I've said so many times this little phrase in Christianity where they say, when God wants to send you a present, a gift, he wraps it up in a problem. And then you forget. It's the mercy of God. I love what Srila Prabhupada says. Suffering is a symptom of God's love. When the mother spanks a child, it's not out of anger. Of course, it does happen sometimes in this world, and Srila Prabhupada pointed that out. There's also child abuse, and we don't want to even think about that. But when they're spanking the child out of love to make sure they don't do the bad thing again, the child gets better. What is that nice little story Prabhupada tells of this young boy? He became like a little thief, and he was stealing and gathering so many things and stealing, and his auntie wouldn't say anything to him because she was getting the benefit of his stealing. He would bring all these nice things home. And this is very common nowadays, especially in communities where there's a lot of drug dealing and things like that. So the drug dealers will give money to the parents and they don't say anything. So this lady would not say anything to this boy. And then finally the boy got caught, and he was, I believe, on his deathbed for some reason. Maybe he had done some really bad thing. And then they said, okay, what do you want? He said, I want to speak to my auntie something in her ear. Okay, no problem. This is your last wish. So she came over and she said, come. So she held over her ear to his mouth, and he bit her on the ear. He said, because of you, I'm in this condition now. You did not stop me. You didn't say anything. That's why I'm in this suffering condition. I just want you to understand. So when Srila Prabhupada set this standard of how to correct his disciples, guide his disciples, test his disciples, he set the standard. One must be prepared to pass the test of the Guru in order to go to the next level. So we sometimes forget that due to the influence of the most material nature. Brahma momentarily forgot that. Arjuna momentarily forgot that. Can you imagine Arjuna on the chariot arguing with Krishna? The only way that he could do that was because he was thinking Krishna is like my cousin and brother-in-law and, my friend. We used to sit on the bed together. We used to joke together. I would chastise you. We have fun. So now my friend is telling me this, and that. I don't understand this. Krishna, how can you ask me to do this? Fight in this battle when we might kill Bhishma? Krishna, come on, you can't ask me to do that. Dronacharya? I'm not talking about our Dronacharya, but the Dronacharya? Bhishma? What are you asking of me? And these are seniors. These are our seniors. If we kill them, the whole society will fall apart. Remember that. Seniors are important in every society, not just in the Krishna consciousness movement, but in every society. Seniors are important. But seniors nowadays, practically everywhere, are being disrespected. We should not allow that to happen in our movement. We're supposed to set the standard. Our seniors, we should make sure. I was just, who was it? I think it was Hansa Duda, one of our godbrothers, Prabhupada disciple, when he passed away. It just really touched my heart, because I remember being with him in Mayapur, and I asked him some things about preaching and chanting, and I remember his dancing and singing, and I was just like, wow. And I was thinking, oh my God, so special to have him. And then he passed. Then when Brahmananda passed, my heart was really just cracking, because he's like one of the first devotees of Srila Prabhupada. And what to speak of devotees like Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj and then Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, how precious those persons are and were. So in this situation in Kurukshetra, Arjuna is saying, why are you asking me to do this, Krishna? But he's talking to Krishna. So you might say to your Guru, Guru Maharaj, why are you asking me to do this? How can you say such a thing if you understand who your spiritual master is? So Brahma had to be reawakened to understand who Krishna is. And he's seeing all these forms. And the Vishnu Murtis are not ordinary. Like Srila Prabhupada explains that in the spiritual world, everyone in Vaikuntha, they have the same form like the Lord. Sarupya Mukti, liberation. They have the same roop like Krishna or the Lord. But they don't have that lock of hair that's described here. What is it called? Srivatsa? Srivatsa. They don't have that. That distinguishes Krishna. And he has that, what is that locket? What is the name? Kaustubha. So he has these special insignias, and also his lotus feet has special insignia to distinguish him. So the devotees look like him, but they don't have certain things. So these expansions were really Krishna. They were actually him. It's like the super soul within our heart is Krishna. So there's so many, I had a bunch of references here. I'm not going to go into them because it's too extensive, but how Krishna expands himself. And they're equally powerful. Just like the holy name of the Lord. What is that verse? Nam Nam Akari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis. Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis. Nija Sarva Shakti. All the powers in your holy names. You have unlimited names like Krishna, Govinda, Ram, and they're all infused with that power. So these expansions of the Lord are infused with his power. And Brahma is being blessed to see them. And he's being lifted up, purified, so he can appreciate. And we'll find out later on the next verses or chapters, Brahma's prayers. I can't wait till we get to that section. Brahma's prayers after this. Just like Indra's prayers after he challenged Krishna in the Govardhan Leela. His prayers are so beautiful. So we'll get to that point. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure this one point is clear in our minds, that Krishna is Brahma's guru. And Krishna is helping his disciple to be prepared to do the enormous, tremendous amount of responsibility that he has. So we should take that into our hearts, that we are being constantly tested. And I say this over and over to devotees. If you're really trying to be Krishna conscious, whatever happens to you is being arranged by the Lord. Even if you're not being Krishna conscious, whatever happens to you is arranged by the Lord. But it's better to recognize that. General mass of people don't recognize it. That's why there's so much in anxiety. And devotees who forget are also in anxiety. Srila Prabhupada was saying this morning, you must keep death in the front. Birth, death, old age, disease. He said, keep it in the front. Remembering how bad these things are. He actually was describing the time of death. He said it's so painful that the soul can't stay in the body. So painful. So keep that in the front so you don't become bewildered in this material world, thinking that, we can enjoy and go on and go on and on. So the last point I want to mention is that Krishna includes all the incarnations. They're all within Krishna. And all these forms of the same Krishna, just like when Krishna was in Dwarka, and he was in all the 16,000 plus palaces, independently with each one of his wives. And then Narada Muni went to see him in those palaces. And Narada Muni was like amazed. In one palace, he saw Krishna talking with his children, in another palace playing something with his wife, and another palace playing chess, whatever he was doing. And then Narada Muni was like, wow, this is amazing, amazing. So then after Krishna in each one of those palaces would perform his morning duties, he would come out of the palaces, called Daruka, the chariot driver. They were all waiting for Krishna. So he would come out and all the Krishnas would come together as one and go to the Siddharma assembly house and do his daily business. So all the incarnations were in Krishna, but check this out. Lord Chaitanya is none different from Krishna. It's the same Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada explains, and there's so many verses. Let me see, I think I have one that I can give you real quick. Yes, it says, that same Lord Krishna, the fountainhead of all incarnations, is known as the son of the king of Braj. Is that Nanda Maharaj, right? He has descended personally as Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That same Krishna. So when you're reading about Krishna, you're reading about Lord Chaitanya. And when you're reading about Lord Chaitanya, you're reading about Krishna. So we're getting into the mood of Gaura Purnima. I won't spoil the future classes for all of you who are going to be giving classes, but just that, keeping that in mind, that all those expansions that Brahma is seeing, Vishnu Murtis and Krishna, it's the same Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 500 plus years ago, historically documented. Lord Chaitanya is historically documented. Almost like I could say, almost like in the case of Lord Jesus Christ, they're still trying to confirm that he actually existed. And I'm not exaggerating. Just do some study. You'll find out the scholars don't agree. They don't agree when he was born. They don't agree when he was crucified. They don't agree on anything. They don't know. They haven't found any bones. They have none of that. But Lord Chaitanya was just here 500 plus years ago. And there's so many documentations of his activities, period. And he's the same Krishna. And we, by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, are aware of Lord Chaitanya. So let us not miss these opportunities like Gaur Purnima and such festivals to think of the Lord. Recently, we had Lord Nityananda's appearance. We had Varaha's appearance. These are not just stories for us to read and say, oh yeah, that's a nice story. And then you can tell the story so nicely, blah, 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 blah. These things are meant to increase our devotional service. Lord Brahma, Krishna is increasing his devotional service as his guru. So our business is to always see, how can I improve and increase my devotional service? How can I pass the test of the guru? How can I begin to start recognizing when I'm being tested by Krishna and not complain? You know how? You remember Lord Chaitanya's teachings, third slok, Shikshastakam, Turnada Pisanichena, Toroyava Sahistana, Amanina Manidena, Kirtaniya Sadatari. Be humble. Be humble, because as you make progress in Krishna consciousness, I guarantee your ego will grow up. Your ego will go up as you learn the philosophy, as you learn the verses, as you get positions in the movement. If you're not careful, your ego, if it happened to Brahma, I rest my case. If it happened to Lord Brahma several times, it can happen to us, and it is happening to us. But if we stay with each other, keep associating with each other, helping each other, then we can make it through these tests. Last one big test I had, and I was just so frustrated as a brahmachari. My mind was just gone down it. I went to my mentor, Balabhadra Prabhu, temple president. And my God, he just blessed me, just saying, Balabhadra, just go read the Bhagavatam. You know how much you love the Bhagavatam. Just go read the Bhagavatam. And lo and behold, I just started sitting down reading Bhagavatam again very deeply, and all my troubles were going away by the grace of a devotee. So please, please let us all help each other, encourage each other, be patient with each other, be patient with the test that we're all going through. If you become confused, seek the blessings of the devotees, read Prabhupada's books, and in that way we can please Srila Prabhupada, and hopefully one day go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much.
Jai Balabhadra Prabhu. That was very, very wonderful.
Thank you, Prabhu.
You can open it up for any questions, comments that any of the devotees have. I wanted to start off by asking a question. So in the beginning, you had mentioned that, sometimes mistakes happen, and Brahma has made some mistakes. So obviously, we as conditioned souls trying to, be purified in this process of devotional service, we're also going to make mistakes. When mistakes happen, how should we, I guess it's two parts of it. One for ourselves, and then when we see mistakes in others around us happen, our mentality, so that we're not, I guess, too judgmental, compassionate, but sometimes how would you advise us? I guess the first thing is, if we make a mistake ourselves, how should we approach it in the sense of I guess, either atonement or purification, and then also to others around us in our community?
Well, in the first one, I have a personal example, and this relates to something that happened to me and how it was resolved. And it was a Rath Yatra festival in Atlanta. And at that time, we didn't have the Rath Yatra cart. We just had those palanquins that we put on our shoulders and carry the deities, and we'd go from the temple and go through the park. It was just beautiful. It's really nice little festival, because we were just reviving Rath Yatra. So anyway, on those little palanquins, the Lord Jagannath and Lord Balaram, they were tied with a cloth. They had little holes in the back. They had, you know, they could lay back like that, and you could tie them with the cloth so they won't rock as we're moving. So as I was president at that time, temple president, so I was worried that Lord Balaram's thing was not tight enough. He's going to rock. So I went over and I untied the cloth, and guess what happened? Balaram, just like that, fell over on his face. Oh my God. You're talking about a mistake? And I was just petrified. But still, I had to manage the festival. But I'm just petrified. I'm just in pain. So I'm standing in the temple room, looking at the deities and crying and lamenting and complaining about my mistake. And Jabbataka Maharaj says, "Stop it. You made a mistake. Now get up and do your service." He just really picked me up, like I said, no time like that. You have to make sure this festival goes nicely. You made a mistake. Now move on. So he didn't allow me to languish in my mistake. He helped me to learn from that mistake, to be very careful. On the other point about others' mistakes, I say it many times. If you want to correct someone, and I've had this experience over the last few days, having to try to work with someone and point out certain things like this, but you have to have a relationship with the person. Okay, you need to build a relationship, which Rupa Goswami tells us how to build a relationship. Give prasad, receive prasad, listen confidentially, share confidentially. What is the other one? Who knows from Nectar Instruction? Oh, giving gifts.
Give a gift. And receive.
I love gifts. Giving gifts in charity, receiving charitable gifts. So then when you build up this loving relationship and you have to instruct someone when they made a mistake, it's not like every time a person makes a mistake, you jump on it like a pariah. You can't wait to tell them what they did wrong. Wait, better to wait. Unless they're going to, like a person's jumping off a cliff, you grab them, pull them back. I remember one time this devotee, we used to call it blooping. Blooping means that when a person leaves the movement. And I've heard it described that when the living entity comes from the spiritual world to the material world, and he comes into the material energy, it makes a sound like bloop. So we used to call it blooping. So I remember this devotee, a very nice devotee from Atlanta, Bhakta, and he was blooping, leaving the temple. And we jumped in the van and we drove, we knew where he was. So we drove down by the football stadium and there he was walking. And we tried to pull him back. Prabhu, you don't want to do this. Stay with us, please. Whatever you need, we'll try to help you. So when you have a relationship with someone and you notice they're making a mistake, it's not like immediately, unless it's going to really harm their devotional life, be patient, wait for the right opportunity. Make sure you have a strong enough relationship. You might use your position, as someone who might be in a position to force someone to do something. And I like this quote that says, "A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still." So you didn't change anything. You just forced him to do it. But if you have a loving relationship to someone, like Krishna with Brahma, so then when you that loving relationship, you can lift people up. And that should always be the motive. And that second point, drawn up, when you notice others' mistakes, I would suggest before even pointing it out, that you pray to Krishna that I will say the words properly and that this person will understand my intentions. I was listening yesterday to Mayor Cuomo in New York, trying to explain about the situation with the sexual abuse and all that's being said about him. And he said, "It's not my intention." Now, whether he's telling the truth or not, I don't know, but that's what he said. If anyone felt offended by my actions, I apologize. Or maybe, had you been more aware of the dynamics of the circumstances, that would not have happened. So sometimes we have to apologize as leaders for how we treat others. I've had a very big leader in this movement, and I don't say this with pride, apologize to me. Prabhu, I didn't know I was affecting you like that. That increased my love for that person. He was humble enough to admit, I made a mistake. I should not have done this or that or the other. And I was so much in love with this devotee, so much love and respect, that I was able to say to that person, this is what's happening to me because of what you're saying or doing. And that person loved me so much to say, Prabhu, I'm so sorry. Because why? 35 years of service together. Trust. So that's my understanding of that second point. With others' mistakes, make sure you have a strong relationship. As I said, unless they're jumping off a cliff, you need to grab them and pull them back. Sometimes you just have to wait to that right moment, and then you can talk about it. So that's my thought on that.
Thank you, Balabhadra Prabhu. Nanda Renuka, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Balabhadra
Bol,
Prabhu.
Renuka ji. Hare
Namaste. Yeah, namaste.
Namaste.
Yeah, thank you so much for today's lecture. Your lectures are very lively, and you talk like a you're a spiritual person, but you talk in layman's terms. I get it. So I guess you talk for all levels of devotees, especially newbies like me. Try to I get the gist of it. Like you don't go too technical, but it's very relatable. I have like two things. First thing is like today's verse. It was talking all about embellishments, all the external decorations like bangles, anklets, the Kaustubh gem. Why is so much importance given for describing the external stuff? These are like external material things. If you look at the bangle, it's an external. It's a material thing, and shouldn't this is a spiritual scripture? Shouldn't the actual qualities, the actual inner qualities, the qualities of the soul of a purity or things like that, shouldn't they be highlighted? Why is so much importance given for these external stuff?
So let's take that one part. That's such a beautiful.
I have part two. I'll come to that after you
No
answer
problem.
this.
But that's such a beautiful observation on your part and a wonderful question. Why? Because now it will cause us to speak about what that really means. This is all being described on the Lord's body, not your body or my body, right? Like I have a shirt, a nice shirt, you have a nice shawl, and Donna has a nice shawl. Now, if we talk about that, maybe it's okay. But this is describing Krishna's tadiya, his things that he's using. Those things are equally powerful as a blessing. When you see the jewelry of the Lord, or if you describe the jewelry of the Lord, the Srivatsa, once you describe those things connected with Krishna, it's the same, Renuka. It's the same thing as talking about Krishna. All his paraphernalia is equally powerful because it's connected to the Lord, and it's all giving him pleasure. So that's why you can read so many places describing the clothing of the Lord, the jewelry of the Lord, the things in his hair, the ankles on his feet, all because when you hear about those things, they're all like devotees. So when you hear the glories of a devotee, you make advancement. When you hear the glories of the Lord's paraphernalia, when they put on the paraphernalia, it's called Sringara in the Sanskrit language, Sringara. Sringara tanman diramarjanado. So it's part of the whole puja. We know what is puja and how special puja is. One very important part of the puja is Sringar, decorating. And Prabhupada said this is beautiful, Renuka. He said, the more you decorate Krishna, the deity, the more beautiful you become, more Krishna conscious you become. One time he said it directly about Lord Jagannath. The more you decorate Lord Jagannath, the more Krishna conscious you become. So those things that are being described are none different from Krishna. They're all his expansions, his energies, and they're all serving him. And we're glorifying. Like I always say this when we used to do a lot of Sankirtan and book distribution at the airport. And this included Vaishya Sika and all these big devotees. So we had a practice. We would stop during the day and we would talk about what the deity was wearing in the morning. What color was the outfit? What kind of jewelry? How was the hair? It's like, and it brought so much joy. So the point is, those items that are being described are spiritually powerful. And just by you talking about them, as you just did, we're making spiritual advancements. So I really thank you for that. That's a beautiful question. So what was part two?
The part 2 is a slightly off topic, but it is related to spirituality and your speech on your Facebook talk. I think it was a Zoom call, Facebook
Yeah.
relayed live on Facebook with Pushpita Prasad,
Yeah.
with KONA, a Coalition of Hindus of North America.
Yeah.
So I went through the whole discussion. It was like an hour-long discussion. I think you both did a good job. She asked like very nice
She's very
questions.
nice lady. Very nice.
Yeah, very nice questions, and you had like the perfect answers, and you were like belting out numbers and all the Gita verses. And if you looked at the chat window, there were like 20 people. I think most of them were logged on from India or from the United States. They were asking you, does this guy have a YouTube page? Is he on YouTube? Like, I want to watch him. So my advice for you is, I think people relate to you on a one-on-one basis. Yes, your lectures are part of, I think they may be pastor ISKCON Atlanta and ISKCON Philadelphia. But if you have your own YouTube page where you can moderate, like you can have people ask questions, like day-to-day questions, and you can, or even a Gita channel on your own name. I think that's what people are asking. Does he have a YouTube page? Is he like a YouTube personality or something like that? So not harnessing the power of social media for a person of your capacity. You see, if it's all about book distribution is about the concept of preaching Lord Krishna to the masses, right?
Yes.
So YouTube is an audience, like, Instagram is an audience, Twitter is an audience. And the fact that some of these senior teachers at ISKCON, like you and Vishnukada Prabhu, Haryaswadas Prabhu, you don't have your own individual branding. Individual branding, not for your own personal benefit, so that you reach out to the masses and people connect via social media. Yes, there is the ISKCON Philadelphia channel. If someone wants to watch your thing, they can go to search for Balabhadra Prabhu. But that is not an individual branding, right? You don't connect on an individual to individual basis. If you connect in ISKCON Philadelphia, then we can get to you. That is like 2 steps down. But if you have to connect, so my advice for you, see, sometimes juniors can also teach seniors.
Good point.
You are not a master of all fields, right? At least one cannot be a master of all fields, like spirituality, technology, advanced, all these things. So you can take like, my 2 cents for you is, I think it's time for you to build your own social branding.
Thank you. You remind me of my son. He's a music producer and his wife is a TV producer. And they tell me all the time, Dad, you have to have your own channel. To give your message, you need to do it. So I'm taking that as a confirmation from you. Thank you so much. And I will do that.
And I liked your last verse on that, the Black Lives Matter versus casteism / how is the Vedic philosophy addressing the Black Lives Matter issue? I think that was the question that Pushpita Prasad was stressing up. And you were saying that we are not looking for handouts. We are looking for ways of uplifting.
Yes.
You could have, you stressed a lot of good things in that talk. I think it was all about education, and, that is one way. Education and spirituality can uplift any society.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Education and spirituality. That's a deadly combination where anyone can be uplifted. And I think in the Indian government, when they were trying to uplift the untouchables and the Harijans, the SC, ST caste, the lowest of the lowest, like I think in the ISKCON style of segmentation, you would call them Shudras, I think. So the Indian government has focused on, it did not focus on spirituality because it's still a secular country. It focused on education, providing reservations at every single educational system and also in jobs. So probably if for Black Lives Matter movement, education and spirituality or both, I think that is a good driver for upliftment.
Thank you.
You did touch a little bit upon on that topic at the end.
Yes, thank you.
And your speech was awesome.
Thank you. Haribo.
Okay, it's 9 o'clock now. Thank you, Mother Renika, for that appreciation of Balabhadra. I think we'll conclude now. I'd like to thank Balabhadra Prabhu for this wonderful way to start the morning. Many wonderful things to think about throughout the day. I do want to mention that we have this evening at 6:45, Vishnukada Prabhu is teaching the Brahma Samhita. So if devotees want to learn the Brahma Samhita prayers at 6:45, please tune in. And then also at 7 o'clock, we are doing a book reading of Srila Prabhupada's life. Right now we're reading a book by Mother Dinatarini that was written by, or spoken to her, compiled with her by Mother Yamuna, a very one of the first disciples of Srila Prabhupada, with very intimate experiences with Srila Prabhupada. So to understand that time when ISKCON was starting to grow, the mood of Srila Prabhupada, and just kind of that one-on-one personal experience with Srila Prabhupada during that time when he first came to America, has really been eye-opening. So we encourage the devotees to learn more about Srila Prabhupada, through this class. So that begins at 7 o'clock tonight. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank
Very
you.
nice.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
everybody. Have
Hare
a beautiful,
Krishna.
beautiful day. Please be blessed.
Thank you very
Hey,
much.
Bo
Prabhu.
Amrit Bhai. He's an Atlanta devotee. I always love to see.
Thank you for joining us.
He's one of my Harinam partners. He loves Harinam.
Jai.
Hari Bol, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Sita, for the darshan. Oh my God.
Hold on. Let's
wow.
She's at the temple. Let's spotlight that real quick.
So beautiful. Wow. Hari Bol.
Thank you,
Hare
Sita
Krishna,
Mataji.
thank you.
Jai. Shishivara Shard Bihari ki.
Ki Jai.
They look so good. Krishna.
Jai Jagannath. Jai Baladev. Jai Subhadra Maharani. Parama Karuna Shishi Gaur Nitai ki. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sita.
Thank you so
you.
much for the
Thank you, Sita
darshan.
Mataji.
Hare
Thank you very
Krishna.
much for the lesson.
Hare Krishna.